Good morning. Namaste, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, dear friends. You are listening today. You are watching. It is very nice time, nice place, nice action. Nice to see all of you. Nice to meet through social media. To our all subscribers, those who have subscribed this YouTube channel 3M Creator, I thank uncountably. Dear friends, today it is 29th of December, just after 1 or 2 days there will be the starting of the new year. In the end of this year, everyone analyzes, observes, examines his personal achievements. It is a good thing for our nature, for our life, for our futuristic generation. Whatsoever we are doing today, it is being recorded, and our futuristic generation learns a lot of things from our recordings, downloadings. Real thing that is required for learning, that is creativity or imagination. We are the self-examiner, self-evaluator, self-observer of our life. Many times, sometimes, whenever we think about our past and compare our past with our present, it is a good method for improving our lifestyles. If we compare ourselves with others, sometimes it brings depressions, frustrations for our life. So, what is the goodness of our life? That is to be nationalistic and patriotistic for our society and nation, for the betterment and upliftment of our society and nation. In the beginning of the new year, we are to take initiatives it should be in the nature of every person. New Year, that will be celebrated by our Indians as to bring the higher values, ideals, principles of life that were dreamed by our forefathers, foretellers and forecasters. For the youngsters, if we want to maintain and want to improve our personal, physical, mental, emotional and spiritual standard of this society or nation, then it is necessary to improve our lifestyle by getting up early in the morning in our routine. This daily routine can bring a lot of happinesses for the downtrodden, dejected, rejected and needy people of our society. As we have learned through this year, there were so many ups and downs in our economy and ecology, atmosphere and environment, in the nature of the atmosphere and in the nature of our human beings. So, for the improvement of every day, every month, every year, it is very necessary to compare our present with our past and to think for the future of our present. Always we are to keep ourselves in the present, whatsoever God has provided us. We are to thank the Lord our God, who is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, almighty, who He was, who He is, and who He will forever with us. He never leaves us alone in any situation, in any condition, in any position. Dear friends, this is the great message from our Indian land that is being spread out throughout the world in every nation for the worldly culture. We feel proud on its variations, diversities, and varieties of our nation. Its uniqueness, oneness, and equality that creates a great effect on all the generators, operators, and starters of the different missions. No doubt our nation is known as the greatest nation in the different fields of agriculture, economy, industry, means of communication, means of transportation, railways, post offices. In all the different sectors of our economy, we learn that it is being improved by the selfless welfare activities of our nation that has only the social and national welfare objectives behind them. For this time today we are discussing a prominent theory of personality and human development centers on unconscious motives that influence behavior. The so-called psychodynamic approach explains behavior in terms of unresolved psychosexual development problems. It also stresses behavior that is aberrant in developing his general theory of personality. Sigmund Freud, 1940 to 1949, the patriarch of human psychology, hypothesized three essential dimensions of personality: id, id, ego, and superego. Dear friends, as per the Freudian theory, on the basis of psychoanalysis things, one position is the conscious position through which we are interacting and watching the things, and one position about which we are subconscious. In that stage we just think but not speak. Unconscious position is that the ideas, thoughts recorded by our mind and runs in our mind, replay of the stories and histories start at night, that we feel. These account for basic drives, id. Our attempts to react to them, ego. and our integration of societal rules and demands that cause us to modify them superego. Freud emphasized subconscious conflicts, their origins and effects on present behaviors. These rejected experiences may be the cause of conflict that causes illness, pain, and deviant behavior. This theory, it is a psychoanalytical approach to understanding human personality. Some of Freudian's original ideas have withstood the critical reactions that ensued, which have fallen into disrepute. According to Freud, there are two levels of consciousness. Levels of consciousness, Freud found that most of the mind lies below surface, that is below the threshold of conscious experience. One is above this threshold is the realm of the consciousness. It includes our current thoughts, whatever we are thinking about or experiencing at a given moment. It is related to ego, that is thoughts and perception. The first stage for producing our original thoughts and ideas that are recorded, stored by our mind. On that basis, we try to speak, read, write, and listen originally. That is the first stage. Our mind needs words, and before the words, it needs thoughts and ideas that motivates it to speak, read, write correctly and accurately, naturally with 100% present sense of mind. Two is beneath the conscious realm is the much larger, that is pre-conscious. This contains memories that are not part of current thoughts but can readily be brought to mind if the need arises. It is the stored knowledge and related to superego. Stored or downloaded, recorded things are the form of superego in our human mind. Third is beneath the pre-conscious and forming the bulk of human mind is the unconscious thoughts, desires, and impulses of which we remain largely unaware. Freud believed that much of it was once conscious but has been actively repressed. Dear friends, in our unconscious position at night or when we feel disconnected with the worldly activities, the journey that starts in the form of the beginning and starting of the ideas. It is the beginning and starting is just equal to the beginning and starting of our whole universe. And we can feel the similarities, resemblances between the startings of the universe and the human life. Driven from consciousness because it was too anxiety provoking, that is shameful experience or unacceptable sexual or aggressive urges are often driven deep within the unconscious. Undisguised form and repressed thoughts and desires It is related to id part of personality. It consists of fears, violent motives, immoral uses, immoral urges, unacceptable sexual desires, irrational wishes, selfish needs, and shameful experiences. Dear friends, sometimes our scholars, visionaries, revolutionaries feel that what does the mean of personality? Actually, everyone has studied about the personal elements. What are the personal elements that are generated by the personal words and thoughts? As we study in pronoun I, we, you, they, he, she, it. These are very common words. Through the word I, Walt Whitman, American poet, represented himself in the form of America. Time and again, he used this word I. I simply in translation, we say and we understand मैं. But this I in the form of English word, we understand it as आंखें. Means these are that eyes that shows the path to our mind. So through that insight of I, we try to understand the insight and intuition of our human body inside the human being. So dear friends, whenever we speak, read, write and listen such words of English, our mind starts learning inside the human body as a human mind. So we must understand, for knowing the concept of personality, structure of personality, there are three aspects of personality. That is id, ego and superego. All these are found in our human mind in the form of desire, reason and moral values. Sometimes desire, sometimes reason and sometimes moral values. In the form of moral values, we have superego in our mind. In the form of reason, we have ego in our mind. And in the form of id, we have desire, intention, opinion in our mind. So first of all, I would like to clear one. Id means a desire, opinion, wish, consists of all our primitive innate urges. These include various bodily needs, sexual desires and aggressive impulses. It is totally unconscious and operates in accordance with pleasure principle. It wants immediate total gratification and is not capable of considering the potential cost of seeking the goal. It is related with the pediation of personality, concerned with immediate gratification of primitive needs and immediate pleasures and with no attention to possible consequences. Second, that is the ego's task is to hold the id in check until conditions appropriate for satisfaction of its impulses exist. Ego operates in accordance with the reality principle. It takes into consideration the external consequences of actions and directs behavior so as to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. Dear friends, we read no pain, no gain. Our all holy fathers of the holy scriptures of our holy land, they described it. If there is the pain inside the human mind body, that is the outcome of the gain. Sometimes, if we try to understand the concept of manufacturing, any kind of manufacturing in any sector, that needs temperature, high temperature is needed, not low temperature. There are two states, high temperature and low temperature. Both these states create the position of productivity. For the production of anything, both the conditions are equally important. But as per the thought of reformation, for improvement, progress, what is required importantly, that is the great need of tragedy. As per the thoughts of William Shakespeare, who addressed by his words to the worldly people, that this tragedy brings pity and fear and become the cause of purification, catharsis. In the same tune, we can understand it. The ego's task is to hold the id in check until conditions appropriate for satisfaction of its impulses exist. Ego operates in accordance with the reality principle. It takes into consideration the external consequences of actions and directs behavior so as to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. Ego is partly conscious but not entirely so. Thus, some of its actions, that is its eternal struggle with the id, are outside our conscious knowledge or understanding. It takes rational account of external reality in the expression of instinctive sexual and aggressive urges. The external consequences of behavior are considered in the regulation of expression of impulses from id. Superego. What is superego? And everyone have the thought of thinking of self-respect. Self-respect is not a bad thing. It must be, self-esteem must be for the soul power, spiritual power, self-confidence. It is the good thing. But sometimes if we don't think, if we don't believe, if we are not the believer of our seniors who are the makers and producers of this world, then we become the victim of superego. And this superego says in the internal mind of the human body, for morality and ethical values, for spiritual values, that is the great need of everyone's mind. And in this field, India has a great place all over the world. Superego, it too seeks to control satisfaction of id impulses, permitting their gratification only under certain conditions. Superego is concerned with morality. It can tell right from wrong according to the rules of a given society. The superego permits gratification of id impulses only when it is morally correct to do so. The superego is acquired from our parents and through experiences and represents our internalization of the moral teachings and norms of our society. It represents the consciousness, or it represents the conscious ego, mediates between the id and superego, striking a balance between our primitive urges and our learned moral constraints. The struggle among id, ego and superego plays a key role in the development of personality. They serve different but related functions and operate at different levels of consciousness. The psychodynamic approach to personality is characterized by two themes. First, it places emphasis on unconscious determinants of behavior, such as what Fread called the id or instinctive drives, and how this conflicts with the more conscious aspects of personality, such as the superego, one's moral conscience, or the ego, the conscious personality. Secondly, this approach focuses on understanding the person as a whole, rather than identifying isolated traits or dispositions. Psychosexual stages of development. Our old scholars of training, teaching training, learn it, and it is very necessary to understand for them to know the child's psychology. Freud has given the concept of libido and fixation. What is libido? Libido is the instinctual life force that energizes the id. It is the psychic energy that powers all mental activity. Release of libido is closely related to pleasure. The expression of libido changes as we move through discrete stages of development. This is the first stage of learning through which a child learns by the imitation. There are two theories we have learnt critically from Plato and Aristotle. Plato, who is in favor of imitation theory. Aristotle, who is in favor of imitation theory, but Plato is purely in favor of ideology, in favor of ideas. What is fixation? Fixation is said to result if an excessive amount of energy is tied to a particular stage. Excessive investment of psychic energy in a particular stage of psychosexual development results in various types of psychological disorders Since the individual has left too much psychic energy behind, less is available for full adult development. The outcome may be an adult personality reflecting the stage or stages at which fixation has occurred. Dear friends, as you are listening carefully, someone is speaking, he plays the role of releasing the energy. He is the energy reliever. But if you are listening, it means you are receiving the energy. All of you are, as a receiver, working the role of judgment. So Freud says that the different parts of the body serve as the forks of the constant quest for pleasure. According to Freud, all human beings pass through a series of discrete psychosexual stages of development. What is psychosexual stages of development? At each stage, pleasure is focused on a particular part of the body. Too much or too little gratification at any stage can result in fixation and can lead to psychological disorders. One is the oral stage, a stage of psychosexual development, during which pleasure is centered in the region of the mouth. It lasts till about is months old. We seek pleasure primarily through the mouth. Dear friends, how the present works equally, how the present time is working significantly in attending the presence of pleasure in our human body. It is very necessary to understand for our learners, trainers in teaching. Too little gratification results in a personality that is overtly dependent on others, and too much, especially after the child has developed some teeth, results in a personality that is excessively hostile, especially through verbal sarcasm and similar biting forms of behavior. Our old scientists, doctors, psychologists, historians, geographers, those who have gone through these steps, this is the first step that helps in productivity and bringing manufacturing of any society or nation even. Dear friends, our social changes are greatly requires to know the sacrificial bodies, to know the history, and to know the results and causes behind the sacrificial bodies. Those who got sacrificed themselves for the welfare of this nation. If we learn, if we understand, if we listen, if we repeat their sacrifice for this nation, then automatically many narrownesses, inferiorities, sorrows, frustrations, depressions, anxieties, automatically runs away from our mind and heart, and we feel re-energized with having pleasure. So this is the great healing and treatment through ourself that can help us by going through the reading, writing and listening, speaking of our forefathers and foretellers, forecasters, those who came first on this land to sacrifice their personal pleasures. The true life is the life of sacrifice. Our forefathers and foretellers, initiators, starters, beginners, those who came for the welfare of humanity, they addressed us, no pain, no gain. So while entertaining such situations, we must understand the truth of life behind. What is the second stage? Pleasure is focused primarily on the anal zone. It is the stage of toilet training of children by their parents, especially the process of elimination becomes the primary focus of pleasure. Fixation at this stage, stemming from traumatic toilet training experiences, may result in individuals who are excessively orderly and stubborn, or alternatively excessive, generous and undisciplined. Dear friends, modernity concept is the great concept that was taught by our Western people to our Indians. No doubt, they gave us a lot of techniques, tricks, skills, trainings, talents. But the Indian talent, hidden talent, implied talent is uncounted, unsung, unread, unspoken. That is in the form of a great treasure. So to do know how to live, how to talk, how to live, how to drink, how to think, these are the skills that were given by our parents to us. So our parents are the first teachers. Our teachers are the second guru, and third guru, who is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, everywhere with us. We try to understand, to know the skills of our life. So second stage is the stage of living stage. One stage, that is oral stage. In this stage, a child learns how to be pleasuresome and happy. Second stage, anal stage. This stage also provides our young one pleasuresome. Pleasure of folks primarily on the anal zone. It is a stage of toilet training of children by their parents, especially the process of elimination becomes the primary focus of pleasure. Fixation at this stage, stemming from traumatic toilet training experiences, may result in individuals who are excessively orderly and stubborn, or alternatively excessive, generous and undisciplined. Third stage is phallic stage. At about the age of 4 or 5 years, the genitals become the primary source of pleasure. Fread says that at this time we fantasize about our sexual relations with our opposite sex parent. It develops in a child from the age of 4 or 5 years. Fear of punishment for such desires then enters the picture. Among boys, the feared punishment is castration. leading to castration and anxiety. But among girls, the feared punishment is loss of love. Try to understand. It must be understood by all the parents of the daughters. Among boys, the feared punishment is castration, leading to castration and anxiety. But among girls, the feared punishment is loss of love. In both cases, these fear bring about resolution of the Oedipus complex and identification with the same sex parent. This simulates development of the superego. Little girls experience panic, envy feelings of envy upon seeing the male organ and realizing that they do not possess, and hence girls experience strong feelings of inferiority and jealousy, and these feelings they may carry with them in disguised form even in adult life. Dear friends, our fourth stage, that is latency stage. What is latency stage? Our psychologists, doctors, pediatrists, those who are listening, they know this thing. In Freud's theory, psychosexual stage of development that follows resolution of the Oedipus complex is the latency stage. During this stage, sexual desires are relatively weak. Children remain in this stage until the onset of puberty. During this stage, sexual urges are largely repressed. Number 5 stage is genital stage. It is that stage during which pleasure is centered in the genital region. Here Oedipus complex develops, in which children must give up their sexual attraction to their opposite sex parent. After puberty, individuals enter the final stage. During this stage, pleasure is again focused on the genitals. However, lust is blended with affection, and the person becomes capable of adult love in its fullest meaning. In Freud's theory, the final psychosexual stage of development is one in which the individual acquires the adult capacity to combine lust with affection. Teenagers, the psychodynamic approach is complex. It views personality as a dynamic set of processes that are constantly changing and often in conflict with one another. For example, those taking a psychodynamic approach to the study of personality might discuss how unconscious aggressive instincts conflict with other aspects of personality, such as one's superego, to determine behavior. Special emphasis is placed on how adult personality is shaped by the resolution of conflicts between unconscious forces and the values and conscious of the superego in childhood. Although the psychodynamic approach has had a major impact on the field of psychology, especially on clinical approaches to psychology, yet it has had little impact in other areas of psychology. Dear friends, now in the changing term you are listening, the Gassel's maturation theory. What is the maturation mean? The maturational theory of child development was developed by psychologist and pediatrician named Arnold Gassel. Gassel's theory was shaped by the assumptions that development is based in biology. Children alternate between good and bad years in development, and that body types share a connection with personality development. The maturational theory focuses on physical and mental development, and Gassel saw these developmental patterns being determined by a child's heredity. Gassel observed and recorded the changes the observed in the growth and development of children from infancy through adulthood. The maturational theory takes the stance that environment has no effect on a child's development. In fact, if a child suffers from any developmental problem, it is believed that the problem lies within the individual child and not as the result of the child's environment and circumstances. Within the maturational theory of child development, children are expected to exhibit certain behaviors according to a maturational timetable. This can be very helpful for parents and educators to see a list of normative behavior for children at a specific age. Gassel's observations of children allowed him to describe developmental milestones in 10 major areas: motor characteristics, personal hygiene, emotional experience, emotional expression, fears and dreams, self and sex, interpersonal relations, play and pastimes, school life, ethical sense, and philosophic outlook. His training in psychology and his focus on development milestones led Gassel to be a strong proponent of the maturational perspective of child development. That is, he believed that child development occurs according to a predetermined, naturally unfolding plan of growth. Gassel's most notable achievement was his contribution to the normative approach to studying children. In this approach, psychologists observed large numbers of children of various ages and determined the typical age or norms for which most children achieved various developmental milestones. Concept of maturation. Gassel observed that maturational development always unfolds in fixed sequences. An embryo's heart is always the brain and spinal cord, followed by the peripheral organs. After birth, babies first gain control over their lips and tongues, then their eye movements, followed by control over their neck, shoulders, arms, hands, fingers, legs and feet. There is genetic cephalocudal head to foot trend in both parental and postnatal development. As a baby grows, they learn to sit up, stand, walk and run. These capacities develop in a specific order with the growth of the nervous system. Even though the rate of development may vary from child to child, Gassel believed that Individual differences in growth rates are a result of the internal genetic mechanism. Maturational theory states that while the child's social and cultural environments also play a role in their development, these socializing forces are most effective when they are harmonious with the inner maturational timetable. He opposed efforts to teach children things ahead of their development schedule, asserting that once once the nervous system had matured adequately, a child would begin mastering tasks such as sitting up, walking, and talking from their own inner urges. Principle of development. One is reciprocal interweaving. Gassel created the term reciprocal interweaving to describe the developmental process in which two opposite tendencies gradually reach an effective balance. For example, when a child is developing a preference for handedness, he or she uses first one hand and then the other, and eventually ends up with a preferred pattern of hand use. Functional asymmetry. Gassel found asymmetric development to be common in children. In motor behaviors, this can be seen in an infant's tonic neck reflex, where babies prefer to lie with their heads turned to one side and extend their arm, to which the head is turned, and flex the other arm behind the head. It is a reflex where the infant directs vision towards the hand of or fist in extension. Next, number 3, maturation stage is self-regulation. Gassel believed that even newborns could regulate their own development and demonstrated their babies were able to determine their own schedules for eating and sleeping. This is self-regulation. 4 is individuality. Critics often point out that when summarizing his findings, Gassel gave the impression that all children behave in exactly the same way at each age. However, his position was that the development sequences are common to all children, but they vary in their individual rates of growth. He suggested that these growth rates are possibly related to differences in temperament and personality. For example, he speculated that a child who grows slowly might be cautious, even-tempered, and patient, whereas a child who develops more quickly might be more outgoing, happy, and quick to react. Gassel believed that a child's environment should be adjusted to his or her temperament and growth style. Dear friends, next you are listening to criticisms of the Gassel's maturation theory. Gassel's maturation theory is one of many theories about childhood cognitive development. Gassel believed that an accurate timetable could be set for the growth of almost any child. One is nurture versus nature. Jean Piaget, a contemporary of Gassel, proposed an alternate and opposing view. Piaget believed that a child is influenced by his environment more than his genetic disposition. Conversely to Gassel, Piaget's model says that a child whose parents spend more time with him is likely to adopt specific social and personal developments at a faster rate. while Piaget and Gassel had opposite views. Or child development, they are both considered to be important contributors to the field of study. Formal education. Often, Gassel is criticized for not taking education into his theory. Similar to the idea of nurture affecting a child's development, education can have a considerable impact. Formal education places children inside a social setting while also giving them information they would not normally encounter. Because of this, the rate of development is increased. Some child psychologists consider education to be part of Piaget's theory, though Piaget never comments directly on education, only environment. Length of development. Psychoanalytic Erik Erikson and pediatrician Benjamin Spock put forth a model that challenged Gassel. Erikson and Spock's model held much more of a focus on emotional development and covered much more of the child's life than Gassel's. Gassel's model of development only lasted until the child was 5 years old. Erikson and Spock presented a 5-stage model that lasted into the teenage years. Because Gassel's model does not bridge the gap between adolescence and adulthood, it cannot be considered to be complete. Unlike Gassel's model, the Erikson's or Spock model is very brief and does not go into the same week by week depth. Emotional development. Both Gassel's and Piaget's models focus on motor and intellectual development. They almost completely ignore the child's emotional development. The more modern view on child psychology, on child development, espoused by Erikson and Spock, includes emotional growth and intertwines it with Gassel's and Piaget's models. Currently, no one maturation theory has satisfied all the various angles that go into the complex idea of childhood development. However, the Gassel maturation theory has lasted quite a long while and does provide some deep insight into the subject. Dear friends, it is the need of every person today in this present time. Initially, our India has got rebirth after winning Corona. No doubt, India got freedom in 1947. It was discovered by Vasco da Gama in 1498 and it got regenerated. It was reoperated and reformed after 1900, after 2020 winning of Corona. Now our India is entering into the new year. Just after 1 or 2 days. So there should be a great hopes and optimistic attitude of our youngsters for regenerating, recreating and reoperating our nation by improving their skills, talents, manners, styles in the different fields of our economy, politics, society. Thank you. Dear friends, those who are listening, watching, may God bless all of you. For the new year, Happy New Year to all of you. Subscribe 3M Creator. Thanks for dealing with you. talking with you. Nice meeting with you.